Hey, this is Cameron. Welcome back to the Busy Gardener channel. Today we're going to take a quick look at this jujube planting with all the leaves gone so you can see clearly what's been done in terms of pruning. Let's get busy. Well, when it comes to pruning, I know sometimes people wonder, what is the actual difference? What happens when you prune and when the tree is full of leaves like these, nectarines over there or this citrus? It's hard to sometimes tell what's happening to the structure here and why that actually matters. And so the fact that these two jujubes, my Lee and my long jujube, have been, all the leaves have already fallen off for the fall. They actually got the memo that it's almost December, like in 2 days, or whatever it is, and have done what they need to do. And so I'd like to show you some of the pruning cuts that we made during the summer and the difference that those made. So the first thing I'd like to do on this long jujube, this got planted just, like a year and a half ago in the ground. I made an initial pruning cut right here because it had this structure that went up. And what's left here is what remains. Now, in a multi-planting, you might notice here that there's a bunch of space in here. And the reason for that space is that we don't want the leaves and the branches to be growing into each other, because when that sort of thing happens, that can sometimes foster diseases and pests and things like that when there's a bunch of very dense foliage all in the middle of the tree. So what we've done here is we want airflow to be able to go through here. We don't want them to impede and start rubbing against each other. That introduces diseases as well. And so making this initial pruning cut on this long and then keeping the center open allows for more of that airflow and reduces the chance of damage from branches touching each other. Now, you notice, well, maybe you can't notice, I've made just a few cuts here, like on this long jujube. This branch has a pruning cut, and that branch went out to about here. Now, the reason that I cut that off, if I put the camera this way, is that will create these long branches, no pun intended. What we want is a bunch of branching here. Branches to come out and create almost more like a bush, like a fruiting bush. It's the same reason we made this pruning cut. This had a really long stem coming out to about here. And so by cutting this back, this is encouraging this to start branching out in this direction. So we're looking for bushiness from our fruit trees in the backyard, not these long, leggy things. Now, this Lee jujube has a lot more aggressive pruning cuts on it. Pruned here, pruned here, pruned here, pruned here. I mean, there are a number of pruning cuts that I made for size because I'm wanting to keep this roughly in balance with the long jujube that's next to it. I'm being a little bit more aggressive in how I'm pruning, and I'm bringing that structure down. I'm really not doing a whole lot to this long down here, really just doing a few tipping cuts. But on the Lee jujube, I made cuts on almost every upward branch. One of the things I encourage you to do, especially if you're dealing with deciduous trees like this jujube or stone fruit or apples, is to take and pay attention to the type of wood that emerges and presents itself once the leaves have fallen off. Those can often be a real hint as to what your tree is all about. And so if you're looking on your jujube and you realize that, hey, this is wood that was fruiting this year versus this wood up here that maybe was older wood, those give you hints on the type of wood to favor when you're doing your winter pruning and you're doing more of your detail pruning. Quickly, the difference between summer pruning and winter pruning is not that summer pruning has to happen during a certain month or anything like that. Like somebody on my recent summer pruning videos says, summer pruning and it's already September. And it's like, listen, summer pruning is more of a style of pruning than it is a specific period of time. Same thing goes with winter. Summer pruning, you're trying to reduce that vigor and that height. You're looking for just keeping those trees in balance, because look, these things, if you've seen my pruning videos, you know how gigantic like these nectarines get and got. They're not all small and quaint like these jujubes. And so we're just trying to reduce the vigor and the height during the summer. And then in the winter, when all of the foliage has gone off, it's where we can come in here and, look at what's going on. Like I noticed that this little branch here is rubbing against here. And there's stuff that is crossing, and that's where you're able to see that stuff. So more than a time of year, it's actually more a style of pruning. Summertime, you're reducing height and size. Wintertime, you're looking for detail and things that you're trying to avoid. Any wood that's dead or diseased or damaged or dying or deformed, those are all things you're looking for in your winter pruning. Where summer pruning, the main focus is that you're just trying to take care of size. Something else that I discovered with the Jujube last year, which is a little bit surprising to me, is the fact that these seem to fruit on this year's growth. This next year, the branches that come out are going to be the ones that do the fruiting. And so by cutting this back a little bit severely, and I might even come back in the winter time here and do some additional pruning just to get the canopy a little bit smaller to encourage some new growth, knowing that that new growth is what the fruiting happens on. So we during the summer pruning, we adjusted for height, we adjusted for vigor. Those long things were pruned to go for more of a bushy canopy as opposed to a very long and lengthy one, because we want a very compact structure. I mean, these things have some serious thorns on them. Look at these things. Look at that thing. Let's see here. Look at that. And so having a ton of like big thorny wood that's hanging out into the aisles here isn't doing anybody any favors. You imagine walking by and just getting snagged on one of those giant thorns? What a terrible proposition. So this is a quick look at our Jujube, one of our favorite fruit in the orchard. If you're not growing Jujube and you're in a hot climate, you are missing out. I want to plant more of these. If that Honeycrisp apple doesn't shape up over there, I'm considering taking it out and putting a couple of other types of Jujube here. That thing's been in the ground for 4 years and isn't doing squat. Well, put any questions you've got in the comments below. I'll be sure to take a look at them. I love to respond and interact with you guys there. And whether you've got one tree that needs pruning in your orchard or 500, until next time, stay busy.